You know that feeling when you're in the wrong place at the wrong time? Well, I had that feeling at exactly 8:03 p.m. on a rainy Friday in Beverly Hills. I was inside a mansion valued at $52 million preparing dinner for 7 American billionaires. And when I heard the main door lock with that metallic, definitive click, I knew. I knew that someone inside wouldn't make it out alive. What I didn't know, what has kept me awake every night since then, is that this person could be me. My name is Jennifer Mitchell. I'm 53 years old and I've been a chef for over 30 years. I've cooked for presidents, artists, famous athletes, but never, ever did I receive an invitation like that one. It arrived in a cream vellum envelope, sealed with red wax. Inside, a card with embossed gold letters. You have been selected to prepare the most important dinner of your life. Solar Oaks Mansion, Beverly Hills, 6 p.m. Payment, $500,000. Absolute confidentiality. $500,000 for one dinner? Do you understand how absurd that is? My restaurant was about to close. I had debts suffocating me like an invisible hand around my neck. And suddenly, that invitation. As if someone knew exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it. I should have been suspicious right then. But you know how it is, right? When you're drowning, you don't ask where the rope they threw you came from. You just grab it and pray it holds your weight. I took the invitation, read it about 5 times, and called the number at the bottom. A female voice, polite, cold as ice. Chef Jennifer, good that you called. The menu is your choice. Premium ingredients have already been ordered and will be available. 7 guests. Dietary restrictions? None. Only requirement, absolute confidentiality. Don't tell anyone. No one at all. I asked who the guests were. The voice hesitated, then said, people who will change America, or destroy it. Depends on what happens tonight. That gave me chills. But I said yes. Of course I did. $500,000 doesn't grow on trees, and my pride had been swallowed long ago. Back when I was 48, when my ex-husband ran away with the restaurant's partner, taking half the money and all my self-esteem. So on Friday, I took my old car, my box of Japanese knives that are worth more than the car, and went to Beverly Hills. The mansion was at the end of a private street, surrounded by high walls and security cameras that seemed to follow me. When I rang the doorbell, a man in a black suit opened. He didn't smile, he didn't introduce himself, he just led me to the kitchen. And what a kitchen. Central island of Calacatta marble, La Cornue's 6-burner stove, climate-controlled wine cellar with wines that cost more than apartments, everything impeccable, clinical, almost scary in its perfection. The ingredients were laid out as promised. Live lobsters, Wagyu A5 filet mignon, Italian white truffles, beluga caviar, things I only saw in magazines. The guests arrive at 8, said the man in the suit. Dinner will be served at 8:30. You'll have help from 2 waiters. They don't speak, they don't ask questions, they just serve. I was going to ask why the hell the waiters didn't speak, but he had already left. And there, alone in that silent and too expensive kitchen, I felt it again, that feeling that something was very, very wrong. I started working. When I cook, the world disappears. It's just me, the knife, the ingredients. I decided to make a 6-course menu. Oyster with yuzu air and edible gold, Wagyu carpaccio with fried capers, saffron risotto with white truffle shavings, lobster and champagne sauce with Sicilian lemon, lamb with herb crust and port wine reduction, and to finish, chocolate souffle with Madagascar vanilla ice cream. Each dish was a work of art. Each dish was my redemption. $500,000. A new chance. At 7:30, the 2 waiters appeared. Young, handsome, mute. As promised, they put on white gloves and stood like statues waiting for instruction. I rehearsed a few times how to serve, showed the order of dishes. They nodded. They didn't smile. At exactly 8 o'clock, I heard voices in the dining room. Male voices. Deep, confident, the kind of voice from those accustomed to being obeyed. I peeked through the crack in the door. 7 men, expensive suits, watches that gleamed even in low light. I recognized 2 of them immediately. Richard Thompson, owner of the country's largest construction company, involved in about 3 corruption scandals but never convicted, and Marcus Fitzgerald, the king of agribusiness, the one who deforested half the forests and still had the nerve to go to climate summits to give speeches about sustainability. The other 5 I didn't know, but I could feel it. Power. Dirty money. The kind of people who decide the fate of millions without losing sleep. They sat around a huge oval table with a baccarat crystal chandelier hanging in the center. Thick candles, antique silverware, crystal glasses that rang like bells when they clinked against each other. And in the center of the table, something strange. A black box, the size of a shoebox, sealed. Nobody touched it. Nobody commented, but everyone looked. At 8:15, the man in the black suit entered the kitchen. "You can start," he said. And then he did something bizarre. He locked the kitchen door from the outside. I heard the click. "Hey," I shouted, "why did you lock it?" He looked at me through the glass door. "Security protocol. You'll understand later." And he disappeared. My heart raced. Security protocol? What the hell kind of protocol was that? I tried to open it. Locked. The only exit was a service door leading to the garden. But when I went there, 2 security guards were posted outside. I was trapped. Trapped in a luxury kitchen, cooking for 7 billionaires, understanding nothing. I took a deep breath. "Calm down, Jennifer. Do your job, get your money, and get out." The mute waiters looked at me, waiting. I placed the oysters on silver platters, decorated with shiso leaves, finished with edible gold. It looked beautiful, worthy of Michelin. The waiters took them. And through the crack in the door, I saw. They ate in silence. No compliments, no comments. They just chewed, looking at each other with a tension you could cut with a knife, until the man at the head of the table, a gray-haired guy about 60 years old, with the face of someone who commands armies, tapped his glass with a knife. "Gentlemen," he said, and his voice echoed, "you know why you're here. Each of you has a secret that, if revealed, would destroy not only you but your families, your empires, your legacies. Tonight, we're going to decide what to do with these secrets." My blood froze. I shouldn't be hearing that. I shouldn't be there. But there was nowhere to go. The gray-haired man continued. "Inside this box," he pointed to the black box in the center of the table, "are 7 envelopes, 1 for each of you. Inside each envelope is proof of your crime, proof that can put you in jail for the rest of your life, or worse." Silence. A silence so heavy I could barely breathe. "By the end of the night," he continued, "you'll decide. Are we going to burn these envelopes and continue as brothers of secrets? Or will someone here betray the pact?" One of the men, the youngest, must have been in his early 50s, stood up. "This is ridiculous, Albert. Why did you bring us here? To blackmail us?" Albert, the gray-haired man, smiled. A smile without joy. "No, Roger. I brought you here to save you. But only if everyone agrees." Roger sat down. He looked nervous, sweating. The others were tense too. Richard Thompson, the construction guy, cleared his throat. "And if someone doesn't agree?" Albert tilted his head. "Then, my friend, these envelopes will end up in the right hands. Department of Justice, press, FBI. Choose." I was trembling behind the door. What the hell had I gotten myself into? I prepared the Wagyu carpaccio with trembling hands. The waiters took it. Nobody touched the food. They just stared at the black box. Until Marcus Fitzgerald, the agribusiness guy, grabbed the wine bottle and filled his glass to the brim. "All right, Albert, let's open this shit and get it over with." Albert shook his head. "Not yet. First, let's dine. Let's enjoy this wonderful evening, this exceptional food our chef has prepared." He looked toward the kitchen. Our eyes met through the crack. He knew I was watching. He knew I was listening. And he smiled. A smile that said, "You're part of this now, too." I stepped back, my heart exploding in my chest. I needed to get out of there. I needed to. I went to the service door again. The guards were still there. I thought about screaming, making a scene. But what if they hurt me? What if I never left that mansion? $500,000. That was the price. The price of my silence, of my fear. I went back to the stove. The risotto was perfect. I added the grated white truffle, that aroma of earth and luxury that fills the soul. The waiters took it. This time, they ate. Slowly, but they ate. And between forkfuls, Albert began to speak. "Do you remember 1998? He looked around the table. "Remember what we did?" One of the men, a short, bald guy with rat eyes, choked. "We're not talking about that." Albert ignored him. "A worker died. We covered it up. We paid the family to shut up, and we moved on. We built empires on top of that body." My God. Murder. They were talking about murder. Roger slammed his fist on the table. "Enough, Albert. Why are you doing this?" Albert stood up. "Because I'm dying, Roger. Cancer. 3 months to live. And I'm not going to hell alone." The silence that fell was deafening. A dying man, 7 secrets, a black box, and me, the idiot chef, trapped in the middle of it all. I prepared the lobster with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. When the waiters took it, I heard a scream. One of the men had stood up, knocked over his chair. "You're bluffing. There's nothing in that box." Albert opened the box, took out an envelope, read aloud. "Offshore account in the Cayman Islands. $23 million, bribery money from Operation Clean Sweep." The man went pale, sat down slowly. "Still think it's a bluff, Robert?" Albert put the envelope away. "Each of you has one of these, and I have copies, many copies. So you're going to listen to me. You're going to dine. And at the end of the night, you're going to decide." I was feeling sick. I needed air. I needed to get out, but the door remained locked. I prepared the lamb. The herb crust was perfect, crispy, aromatic. The port wine reduction, velvety. But I could barely focus. My head was spinning. Why me? Why did they choose me? Did they know I was broke? Desperate? Did they know I had no choice? When I served the lamb, through the crack in the door, I saw something that made me freeze. One of the mute waiters had placed something under Richard Thompson's plate. A folded paper, small, discreet. Richard took the plate, felt the paper, looked at the waiter. The waiter didn't move. Richard opened the paper carefully, read it, and his face changed. From red to white in 2 seconds. He looked around the table. Nobody had seen. He crumpled the paper, put it in his pocket. But I saw everything. What was written on that paper? I went back to the stove. The soufflé was almost ready. 15 more minutes. I just needed to hold on 15 more minutes, and this nightmare would be over. But then I heard a noise, a dull thud, screams. I ran to the crack in the door. Richard Thompson was collapsed on the floor, convulsing, foam coming out of his mouth. The other men stood up, shouting, "Call an ambulance. He's having an attack. Someone do something." But nobody did anything, and in less than 2 minutes, Richard Thompson stopped moving, eyes open, fixed on the crystal chandelier above him. Dead. A billionaire dead on the floor of a mansion in Beverly Hills. And me, the chef, trapped in a kitchen, having seen everything? Albert knelt beside the body, checked the pulse, looked at the others. Poison. The word fell like a bomb. Someone poisoned him. Everyone looked at each other. Fear, suspicion, panic. Who? Who did this? Albert stood up, looked at the kitchen, at me. The chef. My heart stopped. No. He was accusing me. I didn't do anything. I just cooked. The others looked at me through the glass door, looks of hatred, of fear, of certainty.
She poisoned the food. Lock her up. Call the police. I tried to open the door, scream, explain myself, but the door was locked. And on the other side, 7 powerful men, now 6 alive and 1 dead, looked at me as if I were a murderer. Suddenly, the door opened. The man in the black suit entered, looked at me. "I'm sorry, Chef Jennifer, but you need to come with me." "I didn't do anything," I shouted. "I just cooked. I didn't put poison in anything." He grabbed my arm, firm. "I know." That disarmed me. "You know?" He pulled me out of the kitchen, into the hallway, away from the billionaires. He lowered his voice. "You were brought here for a reason, Chef, but it's not the reason you think." "What the hell are you talking about?" He looked back, checking if anyone was listening. 25 years ago, you worked at a restaurant in Manhattan, remember? Manhattan. 25 years ago, I was 28. I was sous chef at Ambrose, a trendy restaurant that doesn't exist anymore. I remember. And do you remember an accident? Food poisoning, a customer who died. My blood froze. Yes, I remembered. How could I forget? It was a Saturday night, full house. A middle-aged man ordered oysters. Minutes later, he started feeling sick, vomiting, convulsions. They called 911. He died on the way to the hospital. The investigation concluded the oysters were contaminated. The restaurant closed. I lost my job, my reputation. I spent years trying to rebuild. "What does that have to do with today?" I asked, my voice trembling. The man in the suit sighed. "That man who died? He was Richard Thompson's father, the billionaire who just died in there." My world collapsed. "What?" "Richard Thompson spent the last 25 years looking for who killed his father. He never believed it was an accident, and he discovered it was you." "But I didn't kill anyone. The oysters were contaminated. It was an accident." The man shook his head. "It wasn't an accident, Chef. Someone put poison in those oysters, and Richard found out who, but it wasn't you." I was dizzy, confused, terrified. "Then who was it?" He looked into my eyes. It was Albert. The world stopped. Albert, the man who was dying of cancer? The man who organized that dinner? Why? Because Richard's father was about to expose a corruption scheme involving all of them. Albert, Marcus, Robert, all the others. If he talked, they'd go to jail. So Albert silenced him. And you were the perfect scapegoat. I couldn't process it. 25 years. 25 years living with the guilt of a death I didn't cause. 25 years being avoided, judged, destroyed. And all because of a murder I didn't commit. And why did Richard die now? The man in the suit looked at the dining room. Because Richard found out the truth 2 weeks ago. He was going to expose Albert. He was going to expose everyone. So Albert organized this dinner, not for blackmail, to eliminate Richard and blame you. Again. The tears fell, from rage, from fear, from 25 years of injustice. "And you, who are you?" He took a badge from his pocket. FBI. "Agent Carter. I've been undercover in this operation for 6 months. And you used me as bait?" "No, you were used by Albert. But I'm here to make sure you're not blamed again." He handed me a small recorder. Everything was recorded. Every word, every confession. Albert is finished. All of them are. I looked at the recorder in my hand. So small, so powerful. And the poison, who put it on Richard's plate? Carter looked at the hallway where the mute waiters were standing. One of them is my partner. He put the poison on the plate, following Albert's orders. But we knew. We were waiting. It was the only way to catch Albert red-handed. And if he accused me, that's why I'm here, to protect you. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. 25 years. Finally, the truth. But we went back to the dining room. Albert was sitting, hands on the table, calm, controlled. When he saw me, he smiled. "Chef Jennifer, what a pleasure to finally meet you personally. You killed Richard's father and blamed me." He tilted his head. "You had the oysters. You had the access. It was easy. And today, you brought me here to do it again? I need someone to blame, Chef, and you already have a history. Who would believe you?" Carter stepped forward, showed the badge. FBI. Albert Morrison, you are arrested for homicide, conspiracy, and a huge list of other crimes.
Albert didn't seem surprised, just tired. I'm already dead anyway. Cancer, remember? He looked at the other billionaires, who were pale, terrified. But you, gentlemen, you're going to rot in jail. Carter made a signal. Dozens of agents invaded the mansion. Handcuffs, screams, chaos. I stood there, watching everything collapse. And then Carter turned to me. You're free, chef, and your record will be cleared. 25 years of injustice will be corrected. I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. But there was something more. Something Carter said. Albert Morrison. Morrison. My last name. Carter, I called, my voice trembling. Albert, what's his full name? He checked the file. Albert Morrison Caldwell. Caldwell? My mother's maiden name? My heart raced. Does he have any relation to Amanda Caldwell? Carter frowned. Checked again. Yes, Amanda was his sister. Amanda, my mother, who died when I was 10. So Albert is your uncle, chef? The world spun. Albert, my uncle, the man who destroyed my life, the man who killed and blamed me, was my uncle. He heard me. We looked at each other, and he smiled. That smile. Surprised, Jennifer? Why? Why did you do this to me? He stood up, even with the handcuffs. Business, Jennifer. Just business. They took him away, and I stood there, in the empty mansion, surrounded by expensive leftover food, spilled wine, and Richard Thompson's body covered with a white sheet. $500,000. That was the price of truth. But you know what's funny? I never got the money, because the dinner didn't end, because it was all a trap. But I gained something better. I got my life back, my reputation, my truth. 2 months later, I reopened my restaurant, this time with honest investors, with clean money. The name? Truth on the Table. And you know who my first customer was? Agent Carter. He ordered oysters, and when I served them, he smiled. Trusting me? I smiled back. For the first time in 25 years, I trust. But the story doesn't end there, because 3 weeks later, I received a letter, no return address. Inside, a photo, an old, faded photo, my mother, young, smiling, and next to her, a man I didn't know. On the back, a message. She didn't die by accident, and Albert didn't act alone. The truth is buried in Lake Tahoe, blue house, basement, a friend. My blood froze. Albert didn't act alone. Someone else was involved, someone who was still free. I took the photo, took my car, and went to Lake Tahoe. I found the blue house, old, abandoned, surrounded by tall grass. The door was open. I entered. The smell of mold suffocated me. I went down to the basement, and there, in a dusty box, I found it. Documents, photos, recordings, proof that my mother was investigating not just Albert, but an entire network of corruption involving politicians, businessmen, judges, and at the bottom of the box, a name that made the floor disappear beneath my feet. Agent Carter. He was on the payroll 30 years ago. He knew everything. He was involved, and he used me. Again, I called him. Carter, we need to talk. He hesitated. About what, chef? About Lake Tahoe? About my mother? About you? Silence. Then he sighed. You went there. I did. Then you know. I know. He hung up. I tried to call again. Number out of service. I went to the FBI, asked for Agent Carter. The attendant frowned. We don't have anyone by that name. I showed the badge he gave me on the day of the dinner. She analyzed it. This is fake, ma'am. Fake. Everything fake. Carter wasn't an agent. He was part of the scheme, and he used me to eliminate Albert, to take control of the secrets, of the envelopes, of the power. I went home. locked all the doors, closed all the windows, but in the middle of the night, I heard it. Footsteps. In the living room. Someone had entered. I grabbed my chef's knife, went downstairs, and there he was, Carter, sitting on my couch, in the darkness. "You shouldn't have gone to Lake Tahoe, Jennifer. You killed my mother." He stood up. "No, I just facilitated. Albert did the dirty work, but I covered the evidence, and I was well paid for it. And now, are you going to kill me too?" He took a gun from his coat. "I like you, chef, really, but you know too much." I laughed, a humorless laugh. Everyone who knows too much dies, right? That's how it works? He pointed the gun. That's how it works. But before he could shoot, the door burst open. Police officers, real ones this time. They invaded my house, tackled Carter, handcuffed him, and at the front, a woman I recognized, Detective Rivera, famous for fighting corruption. She looked at me. "Chef Jennifer, you're safe now. How did you know?" She smiled. "Someone sent an anonymous tip with evidence, lots of evidence, against Carter, against the entire network." "Who sent?" She handed me an envelope. "This was addressed to you." I opened it. Inside, a letter, and the handwriting, shaky but familiar, made my heart stop. "Dear Jennifer, if you're reading this, it means I failed to protect you while I was alive. My name is Richard Thompson. Yes, the man who died at the dinner. But before I died, I discovered everything. I discovered you were innocent. I discovered about Albert, about Carter, about the entire network. And I left this evidence in safe hands, programmed to be delivered in case something happened to me. My father was murdered by them. Your mother too. We are children of the same injustice. May the truth finally set us free. R.T." My hands trembled holding the paper. Richard, the man I thought was just another corrupt billionaire. He had saved me. Even dead, he had saved me. Detective Rivera touched my shoulder. "He left one more thing for you." She handed me a second envelope, thicker. I opened it carefully. Inside, a check, $500,000, and a note. "The payment you deserved for the dinner and for 25 years of injustice." I broke down. I cried right there in my living room, surrounded by police officers, with Carter handcuffed on the floor looking at me with hatred. I cried for my mother, for Richard and his father, for all of us, victims of men who play God with our lives.
Carter was arrested. Along with him, 17 more people from the corruption network. Politicians, businessmen, judges. The largest anti-corruption operation in decades. And it all started with a dinner. With 7 billionaires, with a broken, desperate chef, with poisoned oysters and buried secrets. Today, 3 years later, my restaurant Truth on the Table has a 2-month waiting list. I earned a Michelin star, not for the food, although it's exceptional, but for the story, for the courage to look the monster in the eyes and not blink. People come not just to eat, they come to listen, to learn that the truth, no matter how painful, is always worth it. But there are nights, especially rainy ones like that Friday in Beverly Hills, when I wake up in cold sweat, dreaming about the mansion, about the crystal chandelier, about Richard's body on the floor, about the black box and its 7 secrets. Some of them were never revealed because 5 of the 6 billionaires who survived made plea deals. They turned on each other. But there's one envelope that disappeared, the 7th envelope. Marcus Fitzgerald's, the king of agribusiness. He was the only one who wasn't arrested. Lack of evidence, they said. But I know he still has power, that he still has friends, that he hasn't forgotten I was there that night. Last week, I received flowers at the restaurant. Red roses, beautiful. No card, but when I removed the paper, I saw it. A photo of me leaving the restaurant, taken from afar, with a red circle around my head. Someone is watching me. Someone wants me to know they know where I am. I burned the photo. I didn't tell anyone. Because if there's one thing I learned in these 3 years, it's that the truth sets you free, but it also has a price. And the price is never being completely safe, never knowing when the next letter will arrive, when the next invitation will appear, when the next door will lock behind me. But you know what haunts me most? It's not the threats. It's not the fear. It's a question that never leaves my head. Why did Richard choose me? Of all the people he could have asked for help, of all the chefs he could have hired, why me? And then 3 days ago, I got the answer. A woman came to the restaurant, elegant, in her 70s, with eyes that had seen too much. She asked to speak with me privately. We went to my office. She sat down, clasped her hands, and said, "I'm Helen Thompson, Richard's widow." My heart accelerated. The widow of the man who saved me. "I'm sorry for your loss, Mrs. Thompson." She nodded, eyes watering. "Richard told me about you. In the last months of his life, he talked about nothing else. The innocent chef, the woman who carried his guilt for 25 years. His guilt?" Helen nodded. Richard never forgave his father being murdered, but he also never forgave himself for taking so long to discover the truth. He spent millions on investigators, bribes, threats, until finally he found you. And when he found you, he realized what he had done. What did he do? She opened her purse, took out an old photo, and when I saw it, the air left my lungs. It was me, 28 years old, at Ambrose, wearing my sous chef uniform, and next to me, smiling, arm in arm with me, was Richard Thompson, young, handsome, without the weight of tragedy on his shoulders. You knew each other?" Helen smiled, sad. "You dated Jennifer for 6 months, before the dinner, before his father's death, before everything fell apart." My brain stopped. No, it wasn't possible. I didn't remember. I didn't remember Richard. I didn't remember dating him. This can't be true. Helen took out another photo. Us at a restaurant. Us at the beach. Us laughing, in love, innocent. I'd removed that. Buried it so deep, I didn't even remember anymore. And after his father died, Helen finished for me. He blamed you. Not rationally, but deep down, he believed that if you were still together, he would have gone to dinner with his father that night, and maybe he could have prevented it. So he spent 25 years hunting you, blaming you, until he finally discovered the truth and realized you were as much a victim as he was. My God! Richard loved me, hated me, hunted me, saved me, all because I broke up with him.
"Why are you telling me this?" Helen put away the photos. "Because you deserve to know, and because Richard left something else for you." She placed a key on the table, small, gold, with a number engraved, 408. Safe deposit box at Bank of America, Fifth Avenue branch. It's in his name, but he added you as authorized. Inside there's, well, you'll find out. I took the key. So light, but so heavy. What's inside? Helen stood up to leave. At the door, she turned. The complete truth, Jennifer. About everything. About everyone. Including about the 7th envelope, the one that disappeared. Richard had it, and he left it for you to decide what to do with it. And she left, leaving me alone with a key and a million questions. I went to the bank the next day, showed my ID and the key. I was taken to the vault room. The attendant opened number 408. Inside a metal box, heavy. I locked myself in a private room and opened it. Papers. Hundreds of papers. Contracts, printed emails, compromising photos, and there, at the bottom, the envelope, the 7th envelope, with the name Marcus Fitzgerald. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, proof that Marcus had financed militias that killed environmental activists in the rainforests. Proof of slave labor on his farms. Proof of bribes to more than 50 politicians. Proof that would put him in jail for the rest of his life. And a note from Richard. Jennifer, I know putting this in your hands is a cruel burden, but you're the only one I trust. The only one who understands the weight of carrying a truth that can destroy. What will you do with this? Will you expose Marcus and put your own life at risk? Or will you keep it and let him go free? There's no right answer, but there's a courageous answer, and I know you're the bravest woman I've ever met. Do what your heart tells you, and know that, wherever I am, I'll be proud of you. With eternal love, Richard. I cried. I cried for Richard, for us, for the love we had that I didn't even remember, for the sacrifice he made for me. I kept the envelope, went home, and for 3 days I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Just stared at that envelope on my table, thinking, deciding, until on the dawn of the 3rd day, I made the decision. I called Detective Rivera. I have something for you. I handed over everything, every paper, every proof, the entire envelope. She looked at me. You know this puts you at risk. I know. And you're still going to do it? I looked her in the eyes, firm, determined. 25 years ago, someone used me as a scapegoat. They destroyed my life to protect secrets. I won't let that happen again. To anyone. So yes, I'm going to do it. Marcus Fitzgerald was arrested 2 weeks later in a national operation, broadcast live. When they read the charges, he looked for me with his eyes on the cameras, and I knew. He knew it was me, that I chose truth over silence. And when they took him away in handcuffs, he shouted my name. Jennifer Mitchell, you'll pay for this. You and everyone you love. The threats continue. The flowers still arrive. But now I don't burn the photos anymore. I turn them over to the police because the difference between the Jennifer of 25 years ago and the Jennifer of today is simple. Today, I fight. Today, I don't accept being a victim. Today, I choose truth, no matter the cost.
My restaurant is fuller than ever. People want to meet the chef who brought down an empire of corruption, the woman who had the courage to face billionaires. But what they don't know is that I'm not brave. I'm just tired. Tired of living in fear. Tired of carrying guilt that isn't mine. Tired of an America where the powerful do what they want and the weak pay the price. So I cook. And in every dish, in every seasoning, in every presentation, I put the same thing, truth. Because food doesn't lie, ingredients don't lie, and if there's something I learned at that cursed dinner in Beverly Hills, it's that the truth always comes to light. Always. It may take 25 years. It may cost lives. It may destroy reputations and empires, but it comes. And when it comes, it's relentless. So if you ask me if I regret going to that dinner, accepting the invitation, cooking for 7 billionaires, I tell you no, because that dinner gave me back my life, my truth, my mother,
And it showed me that no matter how powerful the enemy is, no matter how many zeros they have in their bank account, everyone bleeds the same way. Everyone is afraid, and everyone eventually pays. This morning, I received another envelope. My heart raced. Would it be another threat? Another photo? I opened it with trembling hands. Inside, a letter. But this time, the handwriting was different, feminine, delicate. Dear Jennifer, my name is Sarah Caldwell. I'm Amanda's daughter, your mother. Yes, you read that right. You have a sister, half-sister to be exact. Our mother had me before you, at 17. She gave me up for adoption because she couldn't afford it. I spent my whole life looking for her, and when I finally found her, she was already dead. But I found you, and I need to tell you something about her death, something that not even Richard knew, something that will change everything you think you know. Meet me, please. Sarah. My world turned upside down. Again, a sister, secrets about my mother, truths that not even Richard knew, and suddenly I realized the story didn't end at the billionaire's dinner. The dinner was just the beginning, because when you start digging for the truth, you never know where you'll end up. You never know how many layers there are, how many secrets, how many lies. And now, looking at Sarah's letter, I know I'm going to meet her. I'm going to hear what she has to say, and I'm going to find out, finally, who really killed my mother and why. Because you see, Albert confessed, Carter confessed, but neither of them said how. Neither of them said why at that specific moment. Neither of them said if there was anyone else involved. And now, with Sarah appearing out of nowhere, with secrets that will change everything, I know there's something bigger, something that's still hidden, something that could cost me my life. But you know what? I don't care, because I spent 25 years running from the truth, 25 years letting others write my story, and enough. Now, I'm the one writing. I'm the one deciding. I'm the one choosing whether I'll live on my knees or die standing. So I scheduled a meeting with Sarah tomorrow in the same place where it all started, Ambrose Restaurant. Yes, it reopened 2 years ago under new management. And there is a poetic irony to that, isn't there? Going back to the place where my life was destroyed for the first time, where the poisoned oysters killed Richard's father, where everything, absolutely everything, began. Maybe there, in the same dining room where I served that fatal dinner 25 years ago, I'll finally find all the answers, or maybe I'll just find more questions. But it doesn't matter, because the difference is that now I'm not alone. Now I know that Richard was with me even after death. Now I know that Helen gave me the tools to fight. And now I know that if there's a Sarah out there, a sister I never knew, I'm not the only daughter of Amanda carrying this weight.
And that, perhaps, is the biggest revelation of all, that I was never alone, that there was always someone, somewhere, fighting the same fight, carrying the same pain, looking for the same truth. Because in the end, it's not about money. It's not about power. It's not about billionaires and their secret dinners. It's about family. It's about justice. It's about looking in the mirror and recognizing the person you see. And after that dinner, after everything that happened, I finally recognize myself. I finally know who I am. I'm Jennifer Mitchell, 53 years old, chef, daughter of Amanda Caldwell, sister of Sarah Caldwell, ex-girlfriend of Richard Thompson, survivor, fighter, and bearer of the truth. And if you think this story is over, you're wrong, because stories like this never end. They just transform, evolve, reveal new layers. And tomorrow, when I meet Sarah, when she tells me the secrets she promised, I know I'm going to discover something that will shake me to my bones, something that will make me question everything again. But this time, I'm ready. This time, I know that no matter what comes, I'm going to face it. Because I learned, that night in Beverly Hills, surrounded by billionaires, poison, and secrets, that fear only has power if you let it. And I don't let it anymore. So tell me,
Would you have had the courage to go to that dinner? To cook for 7 billionaires, knowing one of them could die? To carry 25 years of guilt for something you didn't do? To open that safe deposit box knowing what was inside could kill you? I did, and I don't regret it. Because in the end, it's not about how long you live, it's about how you live. And I choose to live in truth, even if it hurts, even if it burns, even if it costs me everything. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is the only thing that truly sets us free. And after 25 years trapped in lies, I'm finally free. Were you shocked by the plot twists? Could you see the clues I left at the beginning? The envelope the waiter handed to Richard, the way Albert looked at me, the old photos Helen showed. Everything was there, from the start, waiting for you to connect the dots, because that's the genius of a good suspense story. It gives you all the answers, but disguised as questions. And only at the end, when the last piece fits, do you realize you were looking at the complete picture all along.
And now I ask you, could you live with a secret that can destroy lives? Would you hand the envelope to the police or keep it to protect yourself? Would you meet Sarah tomorrow or pretend you never received the letter? Leave in the comments what you would do, because I want to know. I want to know if you're on Team Truth or Team Survival. And there's no right answer, you know? Sometimes surviving is the bravest thing you can do. But if you made it this far, if you listened to my entire story, if you felt every emotion, every twist, every shocking revelation, then do something for me. Subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications, because this story isn't over. The story of Sarah, my mother's secrets, what really happened that night 30 years ago, is still going to be told. And you won't want to miss it. Because if this dinner shocked you, wait until you discover what's coming. Wait until you meet Sarah. Wait until you find out why my mother really died. And while you wait, while you process everything you just heard, remember one thing. Somewhere in America, right at this moment, a dinner is happening with powerful people, with dirty secrets, with buried truths. And some Jennifer who doesn't know it yet, is about to have their life turned upside down. Because this isn't just my story. It's the story of America. It's the story of a country where the powerful dine on caviar while the weak eat scraps. But the time of the week is over. It's time for truth to come to the table. And it comes. Believe me, it always comes. Until the next video. And remember, the truth doesn't just free you, it frees everyone.